You ever stop and think about how some of the greatest things humanity has ever built are held up by stuff we can't even see? These incredible structures and systems that are working tirelessly, completely out of sight. Well, today we're going to dive into two amazing Italian stories, one ancient, one modern, that are built on that exact idea, hidden ingenuity.
I mean, seriously, how does a city just float on water? It's a question that's probably crossed the mind of anyone who's ever seen a picture of Venice, this magnificent, impossible-looking city. Well, the answer isn't in what you can see. It's hidden deep down, beneath the canals.
The secret is so wild that it earned the city this incredible nickname, the upside-down forest. And honestly, that's the perfect way to describe it. It's literally a massive, underwater forest of wood that holds the entire city up.
All right, so let's dig into this unseen foundation. It's an absolutely astonishing feat of engineering that was born really out of pure necessity.
It all goes back to the 5th century. You had people fleeing invasions on the mainland, and they ended up on these unstable, marshy islands in a lagoon. So to survive, they had to get really innovative. They started driving thousands and thousands of timber poles deep into the mud and clay, basically engineering stable land where there was none. The scale of this is it's mind-blowing. Just think about St. Mark's Basilica, one of the most famous cathedrals in the world. It's sitting on an estimated 10,000 of these hidden wooden piles.
And it doesn't stop there. The iconic Rialto Bridge, that's held up by about 12,000 piles. These aren't just numbers, They represent a colossal, strategic human effort to build a city that could defy the odds and last for centuries.
Okay, but that brings up a really obvious question, right? We all know wood plus water usually equals rot. So how on earth have these wooden piles survived down there for centuries without just turning to mush?
Well, for starters, the Venetians were brilliant strategists. They specifically chose super durable woods like oak, larch, and spruce. And get this, they weren't just grabbing trees from the backyard. This was a massive logistical operation, importing timber from all over, from northern Italy to places we now know as Slovenia and Croatia, all to create this hidden support system.
But the real magic here is the science of how that wood was preserved. The key was the environment itself. Once the piles were driven deep into the mud, they were submerged in the lagoon's low-oxygen, brackish water. And that water actually prevents the growth of the tiny microorganisms that cause wood to decay. So the very water that seemed like a threat was actually the ultimate preservative.
Okay, so let's fast forward. That same spirit of ingenuity, of building a resilient foundation to face a challenge, is now being applied to a totally modern Italian problem. We're going to shift from the foundations of a historic city to the foundations of a sustainable one, Italy's transition to a green future.
So, we're digging into a new report called Climate Indicators for Italian Regions. And it's this super comprehensive look, tracking 26 different metrics across 8 key areas, everything from emissions and energy to farming and transportation, to really see how the country's ecological transition is going.
Now, just so we're all on the same page, you're going to see this term, tons of CO2 equivalent. Don't let it throw you. It's basically just a standard unit of measurement. It lets us talk about all the different greenhouse gases together by putting them on the same scale, which makes comparing them a whole lot easier. And here's the thing. While Italy as a whole is making this transition, the country is incredibly diverse. So what this report really shows us is that progress isn't a straight line. Each region has its own unique story, its own challenges, and its own successes.
For instance, take emissions. On one hand, you've got the region of Campania, which has the lowest emissions per person. That's fantastic. But then you look over at Liguria, and wow, they've managed to slash their total emissions by 65% since 1990, mostly by getting rid of coal power. So you've got two very different but equally important paths to success.
Now, when it comes to renewable electricity, the Valle d'Aosta region is just in a different league. It gets a mind-boggling 96% of its power from renewables. That's so far ahead of pretty much every other region.
But that's just a snapshot, right? The picture's always changing. This shows us where the new renewable projects were built in 2023. And look at that, Lombardy is leading the charge. They installed new capacity at a rate that's more than double the national average. So while some regions lead today, others are really hustling to build the future.
And one of the coolest things happening is the rise of these renewable energy communities. Think of it like a local co-op for green energy. You have citizens, local businesses, and public groups all teaming up to produce and share their own renewable power. It's a real grassroots movement.
And this complex picture pops up everywhere. In agriculture, Liguria has the lowest non-energy emissions, but Tuscany and Sicily are crushing it with organic farming. With buildings, the North has more of the super-efficient Class A ones, but the South is actually leading the way on electrification. It just proves there is no one-size-fits-all solution here.
So how do we connect these two stories? What does the ancient engineering of Venice have to do with the modern green efforts across Italy?
Here's where it all clicks. The unifying theme, the thread that ties all of this together, is unseen effort. You have the hidden underwater forest of piles holding up Venice. And today, you have this complex, often invisible web of policies, community actions, and new technologies that are quietly building Italy's sustainable future. Both are incredible stories of resilience and innovation.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Just like those unseen piles holding up a city, what other amazing stories of ingenuity are happening all around us, right now, just below the surface, quietly shaping a world we can't even fully see yet?